The little velvet box sat on your vanity like a burden. You had stared at it for hours, wondering if it was enough. Inside lay the silver pen sleek engraved with his initials, something you thought could be both useful and personal. It had cost you more than you could afford, but compared to the world Jungkook lived in, it was almost laughably small. Still, you had chosen it carefully. You had wanted to give him something that wasn't just expensive, but thoughtful. Something you could call yours. You dressed with trembling fingers, smoothing down the fabric of your modest gown again and again. It wasn't kosher, it wasn't dripping in jewels, but it was the best you could manage. As you adjusted the earrings you had borrowed from your sister, a whisper of insecurity curled in your chest. Would he even look at you tonight? The party was a palace of excess. Crystal chandeliers painted the hall in gold light, and the air was thick with cigar smoke and prideful laughter. His friends were already there, men who reeked of power and arrogance, women shimmering in diamonds like walking chandeliers, and then there was Jungkook, seated at the head of the long table like a king. His sharp gaze scanned everything with cold disinterest. A glass of whiskey in his hand, his presence alone commanded the room. You approached carefully, the box held tight in your palm, your heartbeat rattling in your ears. You waited until finally his eyes lied to you. That was enough, a silent order. You stepped forward and placed the gift before him, your voice soft but steady. This is for you. He opened it without expression. The silver pen gleamed under the light, simple and neat. But before he could breathe, the low chuckle of none of his friends broke the silence. A pen, really. Jungkook owns at least 10 of those, each worth more than her rent. The table erupted in laughter. Friend was smirked and leaned back in his chair, voice dripping with arrogance. Don't worry, sweetheart, I'll lend you some money next time so you can buy him something decent. Heat scorched your skin. Your nails stuck into your palm until it hurt, your throat locked, but you kept your chin high. You refused to cry, not here, not in front of them. Your heart thrashed painfully, each laugh slicing into you like a blade. Jungkook, however, was silent. He twirled the pen between his fingers, his expression unreadable. For a moment, the humiliation tightened around your chest until you could barely breathe. Was he going to let them laugh? Was he going to agree? Then his voice cut through the noise like steel. Mock her again, and you'll find out if laughter still comes easy with broken teeth. The room froze, the laughter died instantly, placed by a stern silence. His words were not loud, but the danger in them was enough to turn every smirk into fear. Jungkook leaned back, sliding the pen into his suit pocket with slow precision. His gaze swept over the table, cold and merciless. Strange, you are giving me cars, paintings, watches, yet not one of them holds meaning. She brings me something hers, and suddenly you feel threatened, pathetic. No one dared breathe. The men who mocked you kept their eyes down, shame and fear written across their faces. Your chest tapped, your hand still trembling, but the burn of humiliation eased slightly. Jungkook hadn't just defended you, he had turned their mockery into weakness, crushing them without raising his voice. But when his gaze flicked back to you, sharp and unreadable, your stomach twisted again. He had not smiled, had not softened, he hadn't done it to comfort you. He had done it because no one dare touch what belonged to him. And in that chilling silence, you realized being his fiancée meant you were not just under his protection, you were also under his power. The laughter clawed at your skin, sharp and humiliating, as though every mocking voice was designed to strip you down piece by piece. You stood there frozen, the heat of shame burning your cheeks, your chest tightening until you could barely breathe. Jungkook hadn't spoken. He sat there at the head of the table, unmoving, swilling his whiskey, the silver pen turning lazily between his long fingers. His face was unreadable, no smile, no frown, just that terrifying mask of stillness. The silence stretched heavy enough to smoother you, your nails dug into your palm, your thought blocking as you forced your chin high. Inside, though, panic gnawed at you. Was he going to let them mock you? Then, without warning, Jungkook reached for the paper stacked beside him. He uncapped the pen with a soft click, the sound unnervingly loud in the quiet hall. Every eye followed him as he dragged the pen across the page in long, deliberate strokes. The scratch of ink echoed like gunfire in the silence. When he finished, he pressed down so hard that the pen tore between the paper, leaving a scar in the wood beneath. He leaned back, holding the pen between his fingers, letting it catch the chandelier's light. His voice was calm, cold, carrying effortlessly through the room, is worth more than everything you have handed me tonight. The words hung in the air like smoke suffocating final, the mocking smirks falters replaced by uneasy stillness. But one man, arrogant and stupid, dared to let out a low chuckle. You can't be serious over a pen. The moment the laugh left his lips, the air shifted. Jungkook's gaze snapped to him, sharp and merciless. He didn't raise his voice, he didn't need to. His words were colder than steel, deadlier than a black. Laugh again, and I'll make sure it's your last sound. The man froze, the color drained from his face, his smirk dying instantly. No one else dared to move, no one dared to breathe. The silence that followed was suffocating, charged with the weight of his threat. Jungkook set the pen down slowly on the table like a king laying down his watch. His expression never changed, calm, controlled, terrifyingly certain, and in that moment, the simple pen gift they mocked became untouchable, untouchably his. Your breath thrashed in your chest, your hand still trembling, shame still lingered, but now it was tangled with something else shock, confusion, and undeniable awareness. Because Jungkook hadn't just silenced them, he had claimed you. Not softly, not tenderly, but with the brutal authority of a man who owned everything in his sight. In that chilling stillness, you realized his defense wasn't kindness, it was power. The mocking chuckle hadn't even faded before Jungkook rose from his chair. The scrape of it against the marble floor was enough to make the entire room fall silent. The shift in the air was immediate, suffocating his mafia aura, floating the space like a storm cloud ready to break. He didn't rush, he didn't need to. Each step was deliberate, measured, and the closer he came to the man who had dared to laugh, the more the air seemed to thin. Without a word, Jungkook's hand shot out, gripping the man's collar in one swift, merciless motion. He yanked him forward until their faces were inches apart. The friend's smirk vanished, replaced by wide, panicked eyes. Jungkook bent slightly, his voice low and sharp as a blade, audible only because the silence in the room was absolute. You think her gift is worth laughing at? Say it again, and I'll cut the smile off your face before you can finish. The man swallowed hard, his trembling hands twitching against Jungkook's grip. No words came out, only fear. Jungkook shoved him back into his chair with casual cruelty as though discarding trash. Then his gaze swept over the rest of the table, slow and deliberate, pinning each man in place. You forget she's mine. That alone makes anything she gives me priceless. Watch your tongue. No one dared to move, no one dared to breathe. The weight of his words hung heavy, unshakable, and in that instant, the gift once mocked became untouchable, sanctified by his claim. Your chest was tight, your hands trembling at your sides. His defense wasn't tender, wasn't soft, it was a brutal, possessive. He had not saved you to protect your feelings, he had saved you because you were his. The night ended, and the heavy doors of his estate closed behind the last of his guests. Silence lingered in the grand hall as you stood by the staircase, the memory of humiliation still clawing at your chest. You felt his presence before you heard him. Jungkook stepped into the room, his dark eyes fixed on you, unreadable. He carried the pen in his hand, the gift you had almost been too ashamed to give. For a long moment, he said nothing, just studied you with that unnerving calm. Then his voice cut through the silence deep and cold. Don't lower your head again, not in front of me, not in front of anyone. You blinked, startled, his words stung harsh and commanding. I wasn't. You faltered, voice catching. I didn't want to embarrass you. A faint scoff escaped him, almost bitter. Embarrass me? He stepped closer, his presence swallowing the distance between you. The only embarrassment tonight were the fools who thought they could laugh at what's mine. His gaze dropped briefly to the pen in his hand, then back to you. You will never bow. Why? Not to them, not to me, not to anyone. His tone was cold, but the meaning beneath it twisted in your chest. He wasn't asking, he was commanding you to hold your dignity even when you felt small, even when the world tried to cut you down. And though his words were harsh, there was something in his eyes, something dangerous, but unspoken that told you his anger wasn't at your gift, but at the thought of you doubting yourself in front of others.